The blonde girl, with a red 0 on her forehead, cries desperately and pleads for anyone to notice her. Surrounded by classmates who keep their distance, she screams for someone to be her friend, revealing her deep loneliness. She kneels down, hands together in desperation, begging them to accept her and saying she'll do anything. Suddenly, a pair of mysterious black shoes steps into the classroom, hinting at the arrival of someone important. The girl cries out in panic as the situation becomes more terrifying and desperate. A crazed figure appears, laughing maniacally while announcing her friend count as 0. With glowing red eyes and a monstrous expression, he declares it's time for her punishment as a digital timer looms ominously. The blonde girl collapses in fear before her classmates, who look on in shock and hesitation, still keeping their distance. The sinister man in a lab coat announces that anyone who fails to maintain their friend count is unworthy. Screaming in rage, he declares such a person doesn't deserve a future and lunges forward. The blonde girl is violently executed, her face obliterated in a splash of blood. A boy watches in shock and horror, unable to stop what's happening. The classroom has transformed into a deadly game, as the teacher announces a new, horrifying reality for the students. The girl lies dead on the floor, her face hollow and splattered with blood, marking the beginning of the horrifying change. In the present, the classroom seems normal again, with students chatting and moving around casually. The boy, now identified as Hayato Makib, reads quietly at his desk, keeping to himself. Hayato clutches his stomach from hunger while nearby girls happily chat and ignore him. Hayato quietly watches the two girls laugh and talk cheerfully without acknowledging him. Feeling isolated and weak, he slowly gets up and leaves his desk. He turns on the tap with trembling hands, desperate to relieve his hunger. Slumping over the sink, he drinks water to ease the pain in his empty stomach, thinking to himself, "I'm starving." A group of girls walks up confidently, confronting Hayato. One girl deliberately bumps into Hayato, knocking him to the ground. Mai Nanasaka yells at him for being in the way, calling him a loser, while her friends stand behind her. As Hayato tries to explain, they mock him further, refusing to listen. The girls laugh cruelly, insulting him for being poor and only drinking water for lunch. Hayato mutters in frustration, trying to hold back his emotions after the bullying. The girls walk away confidently, mocking him as a bottom feeder not worth their time. Standing alone, Hayato looks out the window, his reflection showing his growing despair. He clenches his head in frustration, cursing his helplessness and thinking, "Damn it." Hayato stands at the classroom door, hesitating before entering. As he walks in, classmates turn to glare and whisper, judging him. Shocked and embarrassed, Hayato hears them mock him for using the school facilities. A group of students laughs cruelly, joking that he might start doing laundry there next because he's broke. Hayato silently walks back to his desk, the weight of humiliation still heavy on him. As he pulls out his chair, someone else's sudden movement catches his attention. He lifts his gaze, slightly alarmed by what he sees or hears. The crazed government agent, Myakuzuka, appears holding a blood-stained box, declaring the students as promising test subjects. The students are surprised to learn that a new teacher has been sent by the government. Myakuzuka confirms he'll be teaching them and opens a case filled with mysterious pink splattered gear. Holding up a pair of glowing blue lenses, he commands the entire class to wear them as part of a government order. The students hesitate, confused and concerned, especially one girl who mentions she already wears contact lenses. Hayato examines the contact lenses, noting that they can adjust vision automatically even with glasses. Curious but cautious, he puts one in while wondering about the real purpose behind this government order. With the entire class now wearing the lenses, Myakuzuka prepares to start the next phase. Grinning maniacally, he announces the start of the experiment, warning them not to remove the lenses because they auto-clean. One girl questions the nature of the experiment, confused about it involving contact lenses. Hayato's vision suddenly changes, and he notices something strange through the lenses. He realizes he can now see glowing numbers floating above people's heads. Myakuzuka explains that these numbers represent each person's friend count revealed by the friend counter system. The students are declared official test subjects in a government-run experiment called the Friendship Culling Project. Myakuzuka writes the project name on the board, stating that only people within this class can be considered for friend counts. A 24-hour countdown begins, and the rules are revealed. The students panic as they learn that after the timer ends, the one with the lowest friend count will die. A smug student warns others to be careful if they don't have many friends, hinting that competition has begun. Myakuzuka announces that the deadline for the deadly friend count experiment will be by 5th period tomorrow. A student angrily demands answers, shouting in disbelief at the insane rules. Myakuzuka reminds them that friendship must be mutual and mocks those without friends, saying it's not a joke. Another student reacts in frustration, thinking this entire setup is absurd and demanding it be stopped. A student inspects his eye and notices something wrong with the contact lens. Moments later, his eye explodes in a burst of blood, sending him into a painful death. His body collapses lifelessly over the desk, covered in purple and red fluid. Myakuzuka stands above him, warning everyone that the lenses contain a poison that melts the eyes and brain if tampered with. Hayato, now with a glowing 0 above his head, realizes with dread that this deadly game is absolutely real. Myakuzuka closes his case, signaling the end of his announcement with a chilling finality. He warns the class that human relationships now directly determine life or death, urging them to learn this lesson. As night falls, students quietly sit at their desks, the glowing friend counters above their heads showing varying numbers. Hayato clutches his head in panic, realizing he has 0 friends and believing it's impossible to form bonds in just 24 hours. Feeling the pressure of the deadly countdown, Hayato suddenly decides he must escape. He sprints through the school hallway, hoping to find a place to hide without drawing attention. Gasping for breath, his panic rises as the glowing 0 inches still hovers above his head. Turning a corner, he spots Myakuzuka ahead and freezes, realizing he's been caught in the act. Hayato notices a quiet boy down the hall seemingly trying to open a window. He realizes the boy's friend count number is green, unlike theirs possibly from another class. Hayato approaches him and asks if he's also trying to escape the experiment. The boy softly confirms, saying, "Yeah," revealing they share the same hopeless situation. Hayato urgently tells the other boy to jump first as someone approaches. The boy hesitates for a moment, then climbs up onto the window ledge. With a determined leap, he jumps out, gritting his teeth midair. He lands safely on the grass outside, crouched and ready to run. The boy who jumped suddenly screams as his eyes melt, purple liquid gushing out. Hayato watches in horror from the window, shocked by the gruesome sight. Before he can react, someone grabs his shoulder from behind. Myakuzuka appears beside him with a sinister grin, asking, "What are you doing?" as Hayato freezes in fear. Myakuzuka accuses Hayato of letting the other boy jump first to test if it was safe. Hayato panics and denies it, insisting he never intended to use the boy as bait. The dead body lies on the grass, purple liquid staining the ground, showing the brutal reality of the experiment. Myakuzuka coldly explains this isn't about building friendships, it's about survival, manipulation, and pretending to belong. The scene ends with giant ants feasting on the boy's remains, reinforcing how merciless and inhumane this system truly is. Myakuzuka finishes his twisted lesson, stating that people must be used as stepping stones to survive. He looks at Hayato's glowing 0 and mocks him, acknowledging his complete lack of social value. With a sinister smirk, He warns Hayato that being at the bottom makes him an easy target in this deadly game. Hayato gulps nervously, stunned by the realization that he might be the class's first chosen victim. Night falls over the school, and the deadly countdown continues. Students casually eat snacks and chat, seemingly unbothered by the threat looming over them. Hayato stares at his food, thinking it must be nice to have friends while feeling no appetite himself. He watches others laugh and talk, wishing someone would simply reach out and become his friend. Hayato realizes that if he gains a friend and raises his number, someone else will drop to 0 and die instead. He recalls Myakuzuka's chilling words, understanding he's being targeted by everyone as the expendable one. With a mix of anger and fear, he questions if he really deserves death just for having no friends. Suddenly, an announcement states that smartphone communication restrictions have been lifted, hinting at a possible way to reach out or survive. An announcement warns that discussing the experiment will result in penalties and that all communication will be censored. A student tries to call his mom, pretending everything is fine, while hiding the truth. Hayato is surprised as he receives a message on his phone during this restricted time. The message is from someone named Kisaki, saying they made curry without meat, reminding Hayato of someone who still cares about him. Hayato checks a message from Kisaki, but is disappointed when it's just a request for money. He clenches his phone in frustration, thinking to himself that it's always like this, people only contact him when they want something. Later, he walks up the worn staircase of his apartment building, exhausted and alone. With a heavy expression, he continues down the corridor, weighed down by both the experiment and his life circumstances. As Hayato returns home, he hears strange noises and voices behind the front door, hinting at something disturbing. The dialogue becomes increasingly unsettling, filled with moans and bizarre phrases about fortune and desire. Hayato opens the door quietly, his expression tense and unreadable. Inside, he sees a woman laughing with a bald man during a bizarre ritual, leaving Hayato confused and likely disgusted by what he just witnessed. The bald man chants about absorbing fortune into his body as golden energy falls dramatically, while the woman reacts ecstatically. With a smirk, he turns to Hayato, complimenting how much he's grown since they last met. He performs the same fortune ritual over Hayato, calling it a blessing. The woman thanks him joyfully and snaps photos while Hayato stands uncomfortably, unsure how to respond to the absurd scene. Hayato walks into the room where his younger sister Kisaki sits quietly in the corner while the bald man continues his fortune ritual. Kisaki greets Hayato softly, calling him Big Brother, her expression calm but distant. The bald man crouches behind Kisaki with a creepy smile, reaching toward her in a way that raises concern. He whispers that she should come to the dojo more often so he can help her store more fortune, while Kisaki looks uncomfortable and disturbed. The blonde woman, excited and smiling, tells Kisaki to receive lots of fortune, clearly absorbed in the bizarre ritual. The bald man looks at Hayato and reminds him that he's now in high school, implying it's time for him to participate too. The bald man stares intensely, saying "offuse," which refers to a religious offering, with an unnerving glow in his eyes. The blonde woman offers money labeled as Hayato's portion, trying to appease the bald man, who responds with interest. The bald man greedily grips Hayato, saying he should start earning money and contributing to the cult while showing a bill. As Hayato stands in frustration, the man proudly announces that Kisaki is already participating, just like her mother. Hayato grabs Kisaki by the shoulders, begging her never to go to that dojo, clearly terrified for her safety. A girl yells Hayato's name in panic, warning him that he doesn't understand what the cult will do to him. The blonde woman angrily slaps Hayato and screams at him in frustration. Hayato, touching his injured neck, questions her sanity as she yells that not storing fortune will ruin him. She furiously claims that failing to store fortune will not only make him miserable in this life, but cursed in the next. Sitting alone in the dark, Hayato reflects on his grim reality, trapped in a cult, broke, and doomed to die because he has no friends. Hayato, falling into despair, questions how he can even think about a next life when his current one is already unbearable. He types a message to Kisaki, offering to meet her halfway since it's about to rain. As he stares at the same old response, "Lend me money," his tears fall onto the screen. He clutches his phone and wonders, if he dies, what will happen to Kisaki? Kisaki replies to his earlier message, saying she still can't leave school but reassures him not to worry. With renewed resolve, Hayato silently vows to survive this ordeal and return. Wiping his eyes, he mutters to himself that he should go wash his face. He walks through the hallway alone, the number 0 still glowing above his head. Hayato stops in surprise as he nearly bumps into a girl in front of the restroom. He recognizes her as Ami Shirano, who silently notices him as well. Both awkwardly stand outside the restroom, avoiding eye contact in tense silence. Hayato hesitates at the door, pausing before deciding whether to go in. Hayato looks up, startled, as someone addresses him. Ami Shirano smiles warmly and directly asks, "Want to be friends?" Hayato is frozen in shock, eyes wide as he processes her unexpected offer. Hayato shyly scratches his head, unsure how to react to the idea of being friends. Ami is suddenly pulled away by her excited classmates, one of whom exclaims they've been looking for her. Flustered, Ami tries to speak, but the girls continue to lead her away playfully. Left behind, Hayato stares quietly and thinks to himself that he needs to talk to her about something. Hayato clutches a towel, confused and unsure, thinking to himself, what was that about? He hesitantly walks into the classroom, looking for Ami. As he sees her happily chatting with others, he tries to bring up their earlier conversation. Just as he's about to speak, a mocking voice suddenly calls out, "Hey, loser!" interrupting him. The girl with the number 8 on her head stands up angrily and defends Hayato, demanding, "Why are you bothering my friend?" Hayato quietly responds that he just wants to make friends too, while others look away uncomfortably. The girl sarcastically asks the class if anyone wants to be friends with him, clearly trying to embarrass him. She pulls out a charm and mocks him, revealing it was something his mother sold to her dad for money, humiliating Hayato in front of everyone. Hayato is shocked and disturbed to learn that the charm was sold for 50,000 yen, silently thinking to himself that the cult is insane. A flashback image shows the girl's happy family before the divorce, as someone accuses Hayato's mother of immoral actions for cult donations. The girl angrily claims Hayato's mom deceived her father and broke up their family, venting all her resentment. Hayato, feeling guilty but helpless, quietly apologizes and insists he didn't do anything wrong. The blonde girl furiously reveals the charm's contents shockingly. It holds an old man's fingernail, exposing the scam. She lashes out, accusing Hayato of talking about happiness while being part of something that ruined her family. Hayato remains silent, but his sharp glare and bitter words suggest that maybe dying would be the only way to redeem his worth. A peaceful view of the school building contrasts the chaos inside, hinting at the silent pressure and isolation he endures. A timer on the wall shows just under an hour remaining. Tension builds as the countdown continues. Hayato imagines a gruesome fate, panicking as he envisions himself dying from the eye-melting contacts like the others. Meanwhile, the blonde girl casually leans over, asking a classmate to borrow a tablet out of boredom. The classmate hesitates, saying she just bought it and wants to read it first, leaving Hayato dumbfounded at how trivial their concerns are. The blonde girl threatens the purple-haired girl, saying she'll stop being her friend if she doesn't lend the manga. She pretends to be sweet, claiming true friends should share, while pressuring her with a fake smile. Meanwhile, other girls gossip behind Mai's back, mocking her for always borrowing things. Hayato silently watches the scene unfold, frustrated, realizing how shallow and cruel the situation is. He's on the verge of death, yet they only care about Manga. Hayato panics internally, realizing he has no clue how to survive this deadly experiment. Desperate, he thinks of giving an old manga to Mai, hoping it might earn him some favor. He checks his desk drawer, thinking the manga should be good enough even if it's old. But to his shock, it's missing, leaving him confused and more anxious. Hayato panics after discovering his manga is missing and frantically checks his desk. He's certain it was there yesterday and now believes someone stole it. Outraged, he questions how anyone could steal during such a dangerous time. Recalling the earlier scene, he suspects the thief might be one of the girls mocking Mai. Hayato observes the classroom and realizes Mai wasn't reading the manga she picked up, confirming his suspicion. He grows more certain that she was the one who stole it. With only 14 minutes left, Hayato panics and knows he must act quickly. Meanwhile, another girl mentions Mai never returned a dictionary she borrowed, even though she never studies. Hayato suddenly gets an idea and thinks, maybe. He checks the time on his phone, 11:25. Realization strikes him as he stares closely at his screen. Determined, he quickly moves to stand up from his seat. Hayato brings up the gray electronic dictionary he suspects was stolen and sold. Girl 5 reacts, realizing he's talking about the item she lent to Mai, confirming it had her name on the back. Hayato reveals the listing from a week ago, showing the item being sold online for 2,000 yen. Girl 4 furiously confirms it was hers, pointing out the name was erased with a marker. Girl 4 angrily confronts Mai, accusing her of selling the electronic dictionary on a flea market app. Mai, lounging confidently, feigns ignorance and pretends not to know what Girl 4 is talking about. Girl 4, now holding the phone as evidence, demands Mai admit that the online account used belongs to her. Girl 5 nervously warns Girl 4 that standing up to Mai might have consequences, showing clear fear of retaliation. Girl 5 is shocked, realizing the DVD set she lent to Mai is being resold. Girl 4 stands firm, watching her reaction. Girl 5 angrily shows the item on the app, declaring it's the signed set she treasured. She furiously tells Mai that selling it is unforgivable because it had her favorite artist's signature. Mai, still unfazed and laid back, smirks and challenges them to prove the account actually belongs to her. Hayato firmly demands Mai to show her phone, as Girl 5 and Girl 4 turn toward him. He reveals a rare manga listing on his phone, stating only 100 copies exist and it was drawn by a friend of his father 15 years ago. Girl 4 realizes the sound they heard earlier was a purchase notification, confirming Mai just bought it. Mai is shown in shock and dread, caught red-handed with her phone still in hand. Surrounded by students, Hayato accuses Mai of listing his rare manga for sale. He demands she show her notification screen. Mai yells in denial, claiming innocence despite her flustered expression. Hayato calmly states the shipping date was supposed to be 1-2 weeks later. He grabs the manga from her desk, adding that since it's already here, he'll just take it back now. The girl thanks Hayato and returns the item to him with a grateful smile. She then confronts Mai directly, stating she doesn't want to be friends with a thief. Mai is visibly shocked and confused, asking what she's talking about. From an overhead view, multiple classmates declare they're also ending their friendship with Mai. The red and purple classmates recall how it was Mai who suggested sacrificing Hayato, revealing her manipulative side. They both agree that kind of behavior is frightening and declare they don't want someone like her in their class. A counter above Mai's head drops to 1, signaling her social status or support is almost gone. She looks shocked and panicked. The red classmate cheerfully waves goodbye, announcing he's ending their friendship too, leaving Mai stunned and alone. Mai screams in desperation, clutching her head as her social value hits rock bottom, completely overwhelmed and breaking down. The countdown timer shows only 4 minutes and 19 seconds remaining, heightening the tension of an inevitable consequence approaching fast. Mai screams in rage, accusing her classmates of betrayal with bloodshot eyes and a furious glare. 2 students who once sided with her now casually expose their resentment, saying she always made them pay for drinks. Another classmate coldly admits she wished they had never been in the same class. Mai sits on the floor, stunned and pale, as the final rejection lands. It's your own fault. A classmate sighs in relief, smiling faintly, finally free from Mai's grip. She mutters that she feels refreshed. She turns to Hayato with a soft smile and asks if they can be friends, surprising him. Hayato, wide-eyed and overwhelmed, asks if that's really okay, clearly touched. Another girl also raises her hand from her seat, cheerfully asking to be his friend too if he's okay with it. Hayato exhales in relief, a small smile forming as he whispers, "Thank goodness, I won't have to die." Meanwhile, Mai's eyes widen in fear and disbelief, her body trembling on the ground. The countdown on her forehead hits 3:02 as she claws toward the desks, desperate and panicked. Tears streaming, she gasps in horror, her voice shaky and broken as the realization sets in that her time might be up. Mai drops to her knees, screaming and pleading, her desperation raw. She begs to repay everyone for the drinks if they'll just be her friend again. The others sneer at her offer. One replies coldly they don't want her money, just to be left alone. Silence fills the room as Mai sits alone on the floor. Hayato and the rest watch from a distance, unmoved. Tears streaming, Mai looks around, panicking, her voice trembling. Mai, surrounded and trembling, screams into the room, begging anyone to be her friend. Her voice echoes in desperation. Other students nervously watch from their desks as the countdown nears its end. Mai clasps her hands together and falls to her knees, pleading with teary eyes, "Please, I'll do anything." In a vision or hallucination, a monstrous figure in a lab coat shouts, "Friend count, 0, as if mocking her situation. Panic takes hold. Mai, wide-eyed and manic, mutters friend, friend, as if trying to will someone into saving her before time runs out. Mai screams in agony as her body is consumed by a horrifying fate. Her time is up. The protagonist stands in the aftermath, whispering, "I survived," relieved. He thinks, "Now I can see Kasaki again." The sinister figure explains, "In the real world too, people fall into the abyss for small change." His eerie grin underscores the message. Hazmat-clad figures begin cleaning up. Being so fixated on petty cash, she failed to realize she had lost everyone's trust. Mai's lifeless, glowing-eyed body is zipped into a body bag. That's why no one reached out to help her. Hazmat officers remove Mai's body from the classroom. The remaining students look on silently. The boy and girl look disturbed, clinging to each other with concern. The twisted overseer reappears, announcing, "Next, everyone except the group with the most friends will die." The protagonist, now marked with a glowing blue 2, is stunned and exhausted. The protagonist excitedly notices a change. He looks at his hand and declares, "The number, it's gone back to 0. The digital timer on the wall resets to 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 57 seconds, counting down again. A message appears. The protagonist processes the new rule. Everyone except the group with the most friends will die. He clenches his fist and confidently says, "We can survive." The protagonist, fired up with determination, raises his voice in front of the class. "Everyone can be saved." The other students look surprised but attentive. The mysterious overseer narrows his dark, intense eyes, silently processing the situation. The girl looks confused and asks, "What do you mean?" Facing the entire class and the overseer, the protagonist declares, "If everyone becomes friends, we'll create one big group." 2 girls chat hopefully. One says, "Which means This time, no one has to die. Their expressions are bright with relief. A confident new character is introduced, Tamataka Brandon, grinning arrogantly as he sits back with a menacing aura. He sneers, like I could play nice with pieces of trash, clearly rejecting the protagonist's idealistic plan. The overseer watches with gleeful interest, smiling wickedly. How fascinating. Let me observe this for a while. Several male students approach confidently, joining Brandon. One student notices, huh? Another comments in surprise. Brandon's group is already that big, observing how quickly he's gained followers. Brandon leans back, chugging a drink with a smug smirk, exuding dominance. He grins wide, fangs showing, and declares, "You're all here," as if he's been expecting them like a king summoning his court. Brandon sits confidently with a water bottle in hand, surrounded by 11 loyal students. Hayato's expression tightens as he assesses the situation. This is bad. He realizes the numbers. Right now this class has 2 people. Hayato turns to Brandon, pleading passionately. "Brandon, what are you doing? If we unite, no one has to die." Brandon mocks Hayato, smirking while holding a bottle in front of his face. Hayato looks shaken as he realizes the implication. This means, if we can't join Brandon's group, we'll die. The pressure of survival looms. Sora Hosoya steps beside Hayato, whispering with urgency, "Look at his appearance." A close-up shows Brandon's gold watch gleaming on his wrist, symbolizing dominance and control over the classroom. Close-up of Brandon's smug face and flashy earring, highlighting his cocky attitude and desire to show off. Another zoomed-in frame shows his gold chain and open collar. His whole look screams dominance and status. Sora grins and tells Hayato confidently, he just wants attention and to act cool. Just watch. Sora approaches Brandon with exaggerated praise. "Leader, that's a sick watch. Can I join your group? I'll run errands for you." Brandon appears intrigued, his ego clearly being stroked. Brandon proudly welcomes Sora into his group, impressed by the flattery. Brandon's allies turn to the rest of the class with smug expressions. One taunts, "So who wants to join next?" making it clear that survival now depends on joining their side. Mai and her friend look worried, realizing the pressure and stakes. Their silence shows hesitation. Other students, desperate to live, shout out, "Let me in," and "I want to join too." The tension shifts now. Everyone is scrambling to be part of the safe group. Sora turns to Lu Fang with a grin, saying, "See? Just flatter a guy like that and you're good." He wraps an arm around Lu Fang's shoulder and urges, "Let's join Brandon's group quickly and survive." Suddenly, Sora remembers something, his expression shifting as he warns, "Oh, I almost forgot. There's something you need to do first." Brandon smugly flashes a wad of cash and declares, "If you want to join the group, prepare 100,000 yen. Sora and Lu Fang are left stunned, eyes wide as a wave of shock hits them. Both shout in disbelief. Brandon glares down at them with a sinister grin, raising a finger and growling, "I choose my friends." Sora Hosoya is in shock, sweating and surrounded by lightning. After hearing a huge amount, 100,000 yen, the blonde girl is equally startled, covering her mouth as she realizes the seriousness of the situation. Hayato Makabe panics, shouting that he doesn't have that kind of money. Myakuzuka, with a terrifying grin, explains that for some people, a deadly environment becomes the perfect place to hunt. Hayato Makabe passionately declares that unity can save everyone. Myakuzuka smiles eerily and agrees, calling Hayato's idealism beautiful and correct. With a twisted grin, Myakuzuka mocks that such correctness should be treated like a decoration framed and ignored. Turning to leave, Myakuzuka casually bids farewell, saying he'll see them all tomorrow as if nothing terrifying just happened. Brandon grins confidently, showing his phone and announcing that he even accepts electronic payments. With a sinister smile, he demands 1 million yen in exchange for friendship. The class falls into an uneasy silence as everyone processes his outrageous offer. Desperate, Sora begs Hayato for money, but Hayato refuses, saying it's impossible. Hayato opens his wallet, revealing he doesn't even have enough money for himself, let alone to lend. Brandon grins confidently, encouraging others to join in the name of unity. His group pressures Sora, insisting he should use his smartphone or ask his parents or friends from other schools. But Sora, holding his phone tightly, admits his family is poor and he has no one to turn to for help. Brandon yells at the students to hurry, threatening to raise the price if they delay. Desperate students start calling their parents, lying that the money is needed for educational purposes. One girl panics, convinced she'll die if she doesn't get 100,000 yen immediately. Hayato tries to calm everyone down, noticing that Brandon's group has become the largest. Hayato suggests that if they can unite and pull just 2 people from Brandon's group, they'll have enough to survive. Brandon watches them closely, his expression filled with menace and confidence. One girl doubts Hayato's plan, believing it's impossible to change anyone's mind. She shows Hayato a social media post flaunting Brandon's wealth, warning him that they don't truly understand who they're up against. Hayato is shocked and questions why Brandon has so much money. The girl explains that Brandon is rumored to be part of a pyramid scheme, selling guides on how to increase wealth. She adds that it's just a rumor she heard, showing signs of uncertainty. Meanwhile, Brandon confidently leads his group, offering cooperation in exchange for loyalty. Brandon is shown lavishly distributing money and goods while surrounded by students who've joined his group. Shiori protests, saying it's wrong, as others look uneasy. Another student reminds everyone that even Brandon's followers are human and shouldn't be blindly condemned. As tension builds, someone lights a cigarette, emphasizing the need to value human lives over material things. Shiori tries to rally the class, shouting that 10 lives are at stake and they shouldn't be swayed by petty cash. Brandon, amused, casually asks a classmate to lend him their arm for a moment. He grabs their arm while holding a cigarette, making the situation even more uncomfortable. With a menacing grin, Brandon mocks their words and questions what they mean by calling his money petty cash. Brandon cruelly presses a burning cigarette against a student's arm, causing him to cry out in pain. He smugly warns not to underestimate the power of money, clearly enjoying his dominance. With twisted logic, Brandon praises the injured student for enduring pain, using it as proof of loyalty. Slamming his foot down, he shouts that their bond is built on strength not to be taken lightly. Brandon coldly demands 100,000 yen from anyone who values their life. His followers confidently urge others to join, claiming they're worth far more than that. Hayato hesitates, clearly distressed and unsure of what to do. Eventually, another classmate gives in, reluctantly joining Brandon's group out of fear of dying. Hayato and the blonde girl watch in shock as Shiori walks away from them. Shiori silently approaches Brandon, leaving her friends behind. The blonde girl calls out in disbelief, devastated as Brandon welcomes Shiori into his group. With wide, tear-filled eyes, she whispers in shock, unable to accept that a friend since middle school would abandon her. Shiori breaks down, saying she doesn't want to die and is willing to pay if that guarantees her survival. Hayato and the blonde girl watch helplessly as their classmate gives in to fear. Wataru Sasaba drops to the ground, begging Brandon to let him join the group. Desperate, he explains that his parents are sick and he has no way of getting the money. Brandon pretends to be generous, saying he's not a demon and is willing to give a chance. However, he insists it wouldn't be fair to others who paid, so it can't be free. Wataru begs desperately, willing to do anything, and thanks Brandon for the opportunity. With a sinister grin, Brandon announces the entrance exam, making it clear that earning entry won't be easy. Wataru nervously questions what Brandon means by an entrance exam. Brandon explains that he'll test if Wataru can perform labor worth 100,000 yen. He mentions being targeted near the school gate recently, implying the task will be dangerous. Wataru flinches as Brandon suddenly places a firm hand on his shoulder, signaling the start of his test. Brandon gives Wataru a task to drive some guys away. He calls over Ken and instructs him to handle the situation. Ken clenches his fist, responding with a firm "yes, sir." Without hesitation, Ken offers himself up, telling Wataru to hit him wherever he wants. Wataru hesitantly steps forward, confused and anxious about what's happening. Ken clenches his fist, preparing to follow orders. Without warning, he lands a brutal punch on Wataru's face, drawing blood. Wataru winces in pain, his nose bleeding as the impact overwhelms him. Ken yells at Wataru, asking why he's zoning out in the middle of the test. Wataru, trembling, struggles to stay upright after the punch. Bloodied and humiliated, he groans in pain, unable to respond. Brandon mocks him from above, calling him a failure and comparing him to a useless scarecrow. Brandon coldly tells Ken to keep going, even though Wataru is already down. Ken hesitates, realizing Wataru has no fighting instinct and is completely defenseless. Brandon stands over Wataru, ordering him to reflect and remember something specific. With a twisted grin and a dark aura, Brandon demands Wataru recall how Mai died. A terrifying memory of Mai's gruesome death flashes before Wataru's eyes, with Brandon asking if he wants the same fate. Overwhelmed by fear and rage, Wataru screams and charges forward. He tackles Ken with full force, catching him completely off guard. Ken cries out in pain as the unexpected blow lands, showing Wataru's sudden burst of strength. The entire room watches in shock as Wataru fights back and brings Ken to the ground. Ken screams in pain, enraged by the unexpected attack. Wataru doesn't hold back, landing a fierce punch straight to Ken's face. Fueled by desperation, Wataru swings again, smashing a window in the heat of the moment. Ken, furious and embarrassed, grabs Wataru by the collar and yells that he's making him look bad. Hayato spots a body outside and shouts in panic, realizing how dangerous the situation has become. As Ken presses Wataru against the shattered window, Hayato warns them to move away immediately. Wataru, visibly shaken, realizes how close he is to falling, his face filled with fear. Ken violently pushes Wataru out of the shattered window, sending him plummeting. As Wataru falls, he helplessly reaches out in panic, unable to stop himself. A flashback of another student's gruesome death floods his mind mid-fall. Ken leans out the window in silence, staring down with a cold, unreadable expression. Ken stands in shock, realizing the gravity of what just happened. Hayato grits his teeth as the system declares that exiting through the window counts as an escape attempt and results in a penalty. Brandon casually praises Ken, pretending nothing serious occurred. He mocks the situation, calling Wataru a mere scarecrow, completely dismissing the value of his life. Ken realizes the fight was rigged from the beginning, just a show to justify the high entry fee. Brandon smirks, explaining it was all to make those who paid feel validated. Shaken, Ken sits down, still processing how close he came to dying. As he kneels by the broken window, Brandon casually approaches him, calling out with a smug "hey." Brandon yells at the boy to hurry up and light his cigarette, showing clear dominance. Intimidated, the boy obeys instantly, nervously responding with a yes. Hayato observes their interaction silently from behind, suspicious of the boy's behavior. He starts to wonder about the true nature of that guy and his connection to Brandon. Hayato realizes Brandon never intended to let Wataru join and only used him as a pawn. The group understands that even if the experiment ends, Brandon will just find new ways to exploit them for money. Hayato clenches his fist, determined, and declares they must end Brandon's control. His friend grabs his shoulder, worried, and asks, "But how?" as uncertainty clouds their next move. Hayato reflects on Brandon's dominance. He holds both wealth and influence, making resistance seem impossible. Despite the odds, Hayato forces himself to stay calm and think of a strategy. Suddenly, he receives a message from his mother. Hayato glares at his phone, frustrated that his family would offer to sell such precious items. He hesitates, his thumb hovering over the screen. With determination, he sends a firm reply. Those books are mementos, the last things they have left of his father. A memory flashes, his younger self smiling alongside his father, reading together. They were truly happy back then. Hayato reads a message urging him to donate for his father's reincarnation. His expression hardens. He recalls the cult leader drowning in wealth while exploiting others. Brandon, too, smiles confidently, fooling everyone with his charm and money. Hayato clenches his fist. Both the cult leader and Brandon are the same inside. Manipulators hiding behind a mask. Hayato suddenly remembers something and rushes out of the classroom, ignoring everyone's calls. He realizes if he wants to win, he must become like Brandon or that cult leader. Sprinting through the hall, he searches determinedly, whispering that it must be here somewhere. Finally, he spots it, a hidden stash of bundled money, and his eyes light up with purpose. Hayato rushes through the bookshelves, searching anxiously. His eyes light up as he finds the tree encyclopedia, his father's cherished book. Clutching it with renewed hope, he realizes, this will save us. The school building is shown at sunset, signaling the end of the day. Inside the classroom, Sora Hosoya talks to a girl while the rest of the students stand quietly in the background. Sora angrily slams the desk and demands to know where Hayato is, while the girl flinches from the impact. Both of them suddenly turn toward the door, startled by something unexpected. Brandon leans back with a smirk and suggests playing a game to make things more exciting, offering a reward to the winner. A group of students with glowing numbers watches eagerly, intrigued by the proposal. The blonde girl nervously warns Sora not to look at them, hinting at danger or manipulation. Brandon smiles confidently, saying he admires those who dare to challenge themselves. Brandon mocks Sora in front of the class, calling him trash and belittling his fear. He approaches confidently with a grin, enjoying the control he holds. When questioned, Brandon claims it was an accident and explains he only intended to hit Sora a few times before accepting him. He suddenly softens, saying he's human too and doesn't want to see anyone's brain explode and die. Brandon proposes a new idea with a sinister smile, suggesting they play tug of war instead. Sora looks up at him, surprised by the unexpected challenge. The girl calmly tells Sora to let her handle it, assuring him it's just a game. As night falls, the school building glows under the full moon, setting a tense atmosphere. Two teams stand on opposite sides of a rope, preparing for a game of tug of war. Brandon grins confidently as he sits among his large team, ready to begin. Sora protests, pointing out the unfair number of players and the small girl on their side. The shy girl stands alone, looking nervous but determined as the match is about to start. Sora and the girl react with concern, realizing that Shiori is their only teammate. A sinister smile appears as someone declares that the players are ready. Brandon confirms the setup and asks if the items are prepared for the game. Two students walk in carrying buckets, confirming they have brought everything needed. Two buckets with heavy lids are placed on the ground in front of the students. Sora looks confused and asks what they are, sensing something is wrong. Brandon grins wickedly, calling them exclusive glass shoes and demanding excitement. The girl stares in horror, trembling and whispering, "No, no," as fear takes over. Inside the bucket, glowing shards of glass are revealed, making it clear they're dangerous. Brandon smirks and insists they have to wear them, mocking their hesitation. Sora and the girl look stunned and speechless, struggling to process the cruel demand. Meanwhile, Brandon and his group laugh together, clearly enjoying the twisted game. The girl hesitates fearfully, standing on the edge of the bucket filled with glass. She slowly lowers her foot toward the sharp shards below. She screams in pain as her foot makes contact, unable to endure the agony. Brandon yells with excitement, urging her to jump in completely with a crazed expression. The girl screams uncontrollably, blood spilling as she stands in the buckets filled with glass. Brandon shouts at Sora, demanding him to put them on too. Sora closes his eyes, sweating heavily, trying to summon the courage. He finally steps in, his leg trembling as the pain starts to set in. Brandon snaps his fingers and announces the start of the game. Shori rushes forward and grabs the rope tightly as the tug-of-war begins. Brandon shouts at her aggressively, warning her of the consequences if she loses. With fierce determination, Shori yells back that she will do it, ready to give her all. Kenny screams for Shori to stop, overwhelmed by pain as she's dragged forward. Shori apologizes but says she can't disobey Brandon, fearing the consequences. Sora cries out in agony, pulling with all his strength while standing in glass. Both Kenny and Sora collapse onto the floor, bloody and exhausted from the game. A bloodied foot and shattered glass mark the end as the announcer declares, "We have a winner." Hayato enters the classroom, shocked to see what's happening and demands an explanation. Sora, kneeling beside the injured girl, says they were told winning the game would let them join the group. He insists there's no other choice, fearing what might happen if they refuse. Hayato gently reaches out and tells them it's time to go, while Brandon smugly mocks that they'll all come crawling back eventually. Hayato helps Sora walk out of the room, supporting him while the girl follows behind. They sit on the stairs as Hayato tends to Sora's bloodied, injured feet. Sora tells him to stop, saying it doesn't matter since he's going to die tomorrow anyway. Regretfully, he admits that if he had known things would turn out like this, he never would have asked. Hayato tells them there's a way to survive without relying on Brandon. Sora listens quietly, showing a mix of hope and worry on his face. Hayato stands up with a bag, explaining he's thought of a plan, but it will take time and they must not take another exam. As Hayato prepares to leave, Sora calls out for him to wait, concerned about what he's planning. Sora and the girl watch Hayato walk away again, frustrated that he always acts alone. A countdown timer rapidly ticks down, showing they are running out of time. Panicked, the girl asks what they should do now with so little time left. Sora clutches his head, admitting he still has no idea what to do in this situation. The girl clenches her fist and declares that she doesn't want to die without doing anything. As she and Sora return to the classroom, Brandon mocks them while chatting with his group. Brandon smirks and tells them to give up on Hayato, suggesting he's already failed or run away. Sora glares back, accusing Hayato of disappearing again after claiming to have a plan. The girl cries out desperately, begging Brandon to let her join his group. She falls to her knees and pleads, saying she's willing to take any kind of exam. Brandon turns to Sora and asks what he plans to do. Sora hesitates, thinking to himself that she's right, this might be the only way left. Sora desperately begs for another chance, bowing down before Brandon. He and the girl lower their heads as a red tool is thrown in front of them. Brandon instructs them to tear off each other's nails with the tool, grinning with excitement. As Brandon shouts for the exam to begin, Hayato appears at the door. Calmly, Hayato warns them once again not to take any kind of exam. Hayato stands silently at the doorway, returning with a calm but unreadable expression. Sora and the girl confront him, demanding to know where he's been. The girl urgently pleads with Hayato to join them in begging for mercy. Surrounded by Brandon and his group, Hayato remains composed as the girl repeats her desperate request. Sora yells in frustration, saying they had no other choice in the end. He and the girl kneel in front of Hayato, awaiting his decision. Hayato tells them to stay in the group, assuring them there's no need for any harm. Calmly, he tosses the tool away, revealing that with less than 10 minutes left, the danger has already passed. Brandon glares intensely, confused and angered by Hayato's words. Hayato calmly throws back a chair and questions Brandon's understanding of disappearing. He coldly explains that he was referring to Brandon's entire friend group. Brandon clenches his teeth in rage as the truth begins to sink in. Brandon grabs a bottle filled with a mysterious pink liquid and threatens that his enemies will die with their brains spilling out. Enraged, he hurls the bottle at Hayato while yelling not to act so cocky. The bottle hits Hayato's head, startling him but not knocking him down. As the bottle rolls away near his foot, Hayato calmly begins to say, "From now on," signaling a shift in control. Hayato confidently declares that his group will soon become the largest. He offers the others a chance to switch sides before it's too late. Issei and her group mock him, saying they already paid to be in Brandon's group and would never switch. Brandon scoffs, pointing out he has 8 people while Hayato has only 3. Adjusting his glasses, Hayato calmly responds that there's also a reality where that situation gets reversed. Hayato calls out to Ken, who immediately walks away from Brandon's group. Brandon is stunned and questions where Ken is going. Ken approaches Hayato without hesitation, showing his decision. Hayato smiles confidently, while Wataru and the girl react with shock and surprise. Students from Brandon's group notice something strange and question what's happening. Brandon angrily yells at Ken, demanding to know what he's thinking. Several members of Brandon's team begin walking toward Hayato. One of them firmly tells Hayato to keep his promise, showing they've switched sides. The boy and the girl are stunned by the sudden shift, calling it amazing and confusing. Brandon's former members panic as their group numbers rapidly drop. Brandon loses control and yells furiously, trying to stop others from leaving. He confronts Hayato and demands to know if he thinks he can get away with sabotaging everything. The boy tosses a token or coin back, saying he's returning it. He declares that he no longer owes anything, cutting ties clearly. Another boy removes a band or bracelet from his wrist, also stepping away. A girl picks up the returned item, observing it with a serious expression. Several students begin placing their accessories or symbols of allegiance on a table, indicating defection. Brandon looks shocked as a girl boldly stands in front of him, refusing to submit. Others express their disbelief, realizing more students are abandoning Brandon. Hayato calmly warns there are less than 20 minutes left and asks Brandon what he plans to do now. Hayato surprises everyone by stating he meant to include all of them. One student is confused and overwhelmed, struggling to understand the situation. 2 girls excitedly ask to join Hayato's group. Hayato calmly accepts them, saying sure, solidifying his rising influence. 3 remaining girls realize they're the only ones left and ask to join Hayato's group. 1 girl apologizes, acknowledging their delayed decision. Hayato kindly welcomes them with a smile and tells them to come in. The scene shifts to Brandon standing alone, while Hayato stands confidently before his large united group. Brandon is in shock, unable to understand what's happening as his score drops to 0. Hayato apologizes for making them wait and declares that they've overcome the fear of death. The boy and the girl happily express their faith in Hayato, saying they always believed in him. They teasingly call out each other for pretending to lose hope earlier, celebrating their survival with laughter. Hayato calmly acknowledges the other side's assumptions, now holding a perfect score of 20. Brandon loses control and violently grabs one of the opposing members, yelling in frustration. Ken intervenes, calling Brandon's actions pathetic and reminds him that he's outnumbered. The blonde boy struggles to breathe, further emphasizing Brandon's desperation. Brandon acknowledges Hayato's victory and reluctantly offers to join his group. Hayato casually accepts but hints that he has a condition. Brandon grows uneasy as Hayato's confident smile signals something unexpected. Hayato declares that he makes his own choices and values his friends above all. His firm stance leaves Brandon speechless, realizing Hayato holds all the power now.